Which science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? Are you funny like I'm a clown, an illusion?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death? Yeah, so fuck up and die.
It looks like that microphone's bursting out of your fucking chest like a chest burster right now. It's like
it is.
It's
dude.
freaking me out because your whole entire chest is like heaving out. It's
also
the angle, the like very low angle.
This is the angle, dude. This is what I do now. This is how I assert my dominance. I have I have therapy, and I just do this. I do therapy like this, and I tell the therapist, I'm like, no, you're the one that's broken now.
Yeah,
just they start I make her cry,
drinking in the middle of their session. Yeah, if you're on the YouTube, it's like, yeah, I feel like I'm getting lorded over. I need to change my angle.
Come over to the YouTube, and you'll look. I'll look down upon thee.
Let me see. So this is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. That's Jordan. I'm Levi. Today,
yeah, baby,
we're not
dude. That's a good shot, man.
We're not gonna make a habit of this. Is what I'm saying.
No, I really don't want to do this again. I'm so tired.
We're not gonna make a habit of doing 2 movies because today, this month has been. It's like we're doing like kind of direct to streaming movies, kind of get a variety and like some newer films and stuff. So we started that off with Beast of No Nation, which we'll be talking about, as well as Prey, the Predator prequel. I can't do this. I'm sorry. It's so distracting for me.
That was good though. I loved it. It was a good look for a minute.
I'll do it next time, but it's like it's distracting because it's like the opposite angle. Anyway, so. We're doing those. I know we did a 2-parter last time, and I can't promise we won't do it again soon because of the holidays and Jordan's fucking traveling all the time, I guess, because he's psychotic.
Yeah, I yearn for the road. I can't get away from it.
He just drives back and forth between Seattle and Salt Lake, just on repeat, so he doesn't have to be alone with his thoughts. So anyway, we're talking about those movies. First, we're going to talk about Beast of No Nation, which hopefully I remember because I watched it in 2 chunks over a week ago. But as soon as we start talking about it, I'm sure I'll unlock the trauma.
Yeah, no, right. I was going to say the movie. I want to get into it a little bit more for how it does. It sticks to your ribs, but it also kind of felt kind of.
Too on the nose.
I don't know how to explain. Yeah, like Oscar Beatty is the word I'm using, and it's fine because it didn't take it away from me. But I actually, anyways, we'll get into it. We'll get into the details, the weeds, the nitty-gritty.
I agree.
I overall thought it was fantastic.
Yes.
So that's clearly you can't. You can't watch that movie and be like, it was not very well made. Like, it's a great film.
Yeah, it's really well made. So since this is a 2-parter, I'm not going to give you a long-winded synopsis. I'm going to give you a very, very short synopsis. So, Agu, right, I don't know what country they're in. It's like
it's unnamed. I think it's just supposed to be ambiguous. Yeah. It's just it is. I mean, because Africa's had several civil wars that are still ongoing, and so it's just kind of like I think that
some African country, right? And it's this kid Agu. He's like, obviously they live in like a poverty-stricken village, but he's happy with his family. They kind of get along.
Ghana would be like that's where it was shot.
Okay, so I was gonna say I heard Ghana, and so that makes sense. It was shot there.
Yeah.
So, he lives with his family. There's refugees pouring into this village and stuff because there's like a new regime in power, and then there's like rebels. And so it's like obviously a country in strife. They soon find out that the new government and the rebels are going to be basically converging on their city, and it's going to be a bloodbath because they don't give a fuck who they kill, basically. And so they're like, fuck, what are we going to do? And Agu's mom and his 2 little siblings are able to hitch a ride out of town, but they can't fit him. So Agu is stuck with his dad and his older brother in the town. Rebels and everyone shows up, and it is exact shit show. And his dad is like executed, and there's like a lot of misery. His brothers get killed. He runs into the jungle. Is just in the jungle, and then he gets captured by some rebels, a group, like a battalion, essentially, of a rebel group that is led by Idris Elba, or the Commandant. And
yeah, how is the Commandant?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, how's he look?
Yeah, yeah.
So he takes him in. He takes him under his wing. And he's like, a boy can kill, you know. And so there's other child soldiers there, and so they kind of like slowly take him in, and the Commandant like takes him under his wing, and they like make him fucking machete a guy, and then they like get him addicted to gunpowder cocaine, and then he like rapes him, and there's just so much just like brutal, and he just starts killing everyone, and they're kind of going on this journey across. They're like planning ambushes and like ransacking towns and shit, like doing just general shitty warfare shit, you know, as it goes. Eventually they go to like, they're summoned by like the head honcho of the rebellion, the DNF or whatever. And they go to the city, but like he's trying to like promote Idris Elba to a position he doesn't really want to be in though. And so Idris Elba, like the guy who's going to replace him, who's like his second in command, suspiciously dies. And he's like, you did this. And so Idris Elba's like, we gotta flee. And so he kind of goes into this rebellion group, becomes a rebellion group from their own rebellion. And they basically
he goes AWOL essentially.
Yeah, he just warlords in the jungle in like some trenches, and they're just there with no bullets, no food. And eventually everyone's like, fuck this. Like, we don't even know who we're fighting. We have no food. We're not going to die here for you. We're going to go turn ourselves in. And so everyone leaves and abandons Idris Elba to his fate. And they go and they surrender to the UN, who their soldiers are there trying to get a hold of the situation, I guess. And it ends with Agu and some of his mates, you know,
younger mates. Like
they're like taken into like a relief, kind of like.
It's like a Christian monastery.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
orphanage,
essentially. Essentially, yeah. So he's taken into there, and they're trying to get him to open up, and he's like, if I told you what I have done, seen, I'm a beast, and it makes me sad. So I just want to be like, I was a boy that was loved once, and all this, and it's sad and heartbreaking, nice.
Dude,
but
can we say that like that climax, the monologue right there at the end?
That little monologue was so good.
Was great.
Dude, yeah,
yeah.
Because there wasn't like a lot, but he was doing that kid. That child actor crushed it though.
Dude, and it's funny. It was like he was kind of. Well, here, you just finish the synopsis. That's basically the end.
The very ending, though, the last shot, which is nice, is he finally works up the will to go play with the other kids. Like to go be a kid. He jumps into the ocean where they're all playing in there and having a fun time. He kind of like it's a brief glimmer of hope at the end. You know what I mean?
Right. It's
our main dude.
He says his piece, and then he's able to
He was just a regular young boy, man. Like family and everything.
Right.
So,
and it's cool to see that like the trials of war didn't take that out of him completely. He didn't become an Idris Elba or a tripod type, which is his buddy who fled when they were like that was my most tragic part of the whole movie. I mean, next to like the mom scene, that's pretty brutal too. I love that.
Brutal, yeah.
But that's like really good. That's really good filmmaking. But when his buddy, I think his name was Tripod, right? And it's like he takes another kid, and they're like, "We're gonna go back. We're just gonna go find another
he's
guerrilla warfare battalion or whatever, another group of people who will take us in because like fighting's kind of
he's like,
I know,
exactly. They're like, fuck this Christian shit, like, and he's like, no, you got to remember what it was like. It sucked that we have food here and we have a roof over our heads here. It's not all that, and they're like, but this is whack, man.
Yeah,
it's sad because it is. They're so like casual, but also like I don't know. I get it, kind of like they do a good job making you like empathize with like, gotta get out of here, gotta like, especially if that's all you know, and they're doing all that gunpowder cocaine. I had to look that up. That brown.
What is it? Is it heroin?
It's gunpowder for real and cocaine for real, and sometimes heroin. From what I read, so apparently
do they mix it? And burn it?
Yeah, real child soldiers. From what I've read.
Oh, this is very like historically accurate.
Right, like I had to look up and make sure. Yeah, I had to look up and make sure that this was not, because it very much felt like an autobiographical like book that was maybe written and then like filmed, but it's not. It's an original screenplay. But
Oh, wait,
obviously,
it's based on a book.
it is based. Sorry, I meant original book, but it's not like
Okay.
it's fiction, right?
Sure,
But it may as well be nonfiction because shit like this definitely
this is what
happened.
this is kind of what we like. Yeah, exactly.
It's a
This is
fictionalized
printing-
character of a real situation,
right? Where like kind of my only other frame of reference for the African Civil War is from Hotel Rwanda, and so I like and that's like probably completely different. I mean, obviously, it's completely different from this, but I would assume that there's play on that where it's like Hotel Rwanda is actually based on like two existing tribes that like were fighting, and in that civil war, and like the time period existed and like characters existed. Where this movie is it as biographical as it is. There are no true characters that they're referencing.
Right.
That's
like,
right.
yeah,
Even the like, I don't even know if maybe because there were like three different armed forces.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised
fighting.
if like the organizations were
Those
true
were real.
or as close to true as possible. Move one letter around or some shit.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But so, what was your? Because this is obviously your first time watching it, right?
Yeah, definitely. This has been on my list since 2015 when it came out. I remember hearing the buzz and like being like, oh shit, Idris Elba was kind of not really large on my like radar, but
same.
I love,
I had just watched The Wire, I think, for the first time, like a year or two before that, and I remember because it had Idris Elba, and I remember because I didn't know this, but hey, since we're doing streaming month or whatever. This is like the first Netflix original that there ever was.
That's my.
Was that one of your fun factoids?
Too. That's one of my fun facts, and the fact because once again we're not really doing a true to form episode, so I'm just going to do the Money Minute because it ties in like directly to that.
Yeah.
Where like this was made independently but bought by Netflix, and then this is the first movie that was simultaneously released in theaters and on streaming.
Oh, okay.
This is pretty much this was Netflix going like they're just like brute force being like this is what's going to happen. This is the future.
Yeah. No, that's like
that's pretty much
pretty.
That's where we're at now.
Yeah,
that's the landscape.
It's crazy that was almost 10 years ago. That it's like that was the first. Like it is sort of historic in that way because that's just
right.
the world we live in now.
And it's historic. It's historic that the major four film distributors and movie theaters they boycotted it, and so this movie had to have a really limited release.
Yeah, that's what I remember. That's what I was gonna say. I remember this movie because it started the conversation of they're like Idris Elba should get an Oscar or get nominated, but they're like this is not a film. This is not eligible. This is a streaming TVMA rating type of bullshit where it's like this is not a thing, and it's like we're still kind of fighting that today. Like we kind of got past it now, but
yeah, we're past.
Well, they're still weird. They still make you show it in so many theaters to be eligible, but it's like
right. And I don't know though because when this came out, the parameters to be because I looked it up because I wanted to know the parameters was it had to be 90 days exclusive in theaters. And then it could go to DVD, distributed, any kind of video on demand. It could go to that, like, kind of the second market.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that it could be eligible for an Oscar. And so this movie clearly didn't do that.
No,
they went against the big four and lost their ability to be nominated for an Oscar by releasing in smaller independent theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And so
streaming at the same time.
I didn't look it up now, so I'll check that, and maybe when we do a bonus episode, I'll find the complete history of it because like I want to know what they do now because now you like fucking Scorsese is making movies that come out simultaneously in theaters and like he still gets nominated, so it's like one of those. I wonder what they've done. I wonder what parameters.
Yeah, last I read, this sort of is they have to show it in a certain amount of theaters now. It's like it has to be on like 250 screens or some shit. I don't know if there's a time that it has to do that, but at one time, like that's what it was. But I'm sure they're gonna just scrap that soon enough because it's just like eventually it's like people are like that's not film, and it's like we're past that, but it definitely movies release onto the internet now. Like it is what it is for better or worse.
Well, and that's the thing and this is a conversation we've had several times, and it's actually kind of fun to do a month that's strictly streaming.
Yeah.
Because or whatever, you know, strict. That's what's so like convoluted is because it is like they're video on demand films, but like they do get a theatrical release before, you know, the eligibility to be in film festivals and to get nominations and stuff. But it's also like it's like Hollywood has to like bend to that because Hollywood used to get such a large profit from theaters that they basically just had like they owned like 60% of the movie theater and then got like 80% of the revenue from theaters
For sure.
on ticket sales. And now it's like, what does a studio do when like Netflix is just producing their own, like this was the first film where Netflix was like, we have enough money to buy this film and release it, you know, and now we are a distribution company. We're kind of like we're a studio that does our own thing. And now Hulu does that, but Hulu's kind of an aggregator too. Hulu itself will make originals, but most of the time they just get them from other studios, and they don't actually. Where Netflix actually works more on like an actual like their own studio.
Well,
so
now, don't get me too into the weeds now because it's like
I know
movie. You can tell when Netflix made a movie because it's like
and they do the
shot
same thing
on all the
Hollywood
same
does,
goddamn
though.
equipment. It feels like they all look the same.
It really does. That's where like this film really outshines a lot of the like formulaic stuff we have now because it was shot independently and it was shot with like a lot of passion. And
it looks because that's the thing. It's like obviously the acting is all stellar. Idris Elba is great, and the kid, the main lead, is awesome.
Idris Elba, go listen to his original, go to listen to his natural like accent, and you will. Dude, no, I don't. He's one of like just the greatest like actors for that.
His accent,
that one specific trait.
Yeah, that's what I said in my Reddit post. Was that I was like, I'm still convinced that this dude's just from Baltimore because it's like he, like, that's where I was first introduced to him, and then when I remember seeing him in his like super posh British accent, and I was like, what is this? This isn't the way he actually talks. And then like seeing him do like, because obviously this like African accent. Is such a distinct like way that it's like he says his like his fucking vowels and shit. That's insane. Like I don't know. I'm like he was born there, right? Like he actually just lives in the jungle. Like I don't know, man. This guy's nuts.
I know, really though. It was like that where I'm like, God, I'm really bummed that he had to be a child molester,
such a fucking villain.
Rapist.
He was a good villain though. Like honestly, because. It's like he's that kind of reminds me of like the fucking like Apocalypse Now style, where it's just like the charismatic like leader, but also like you want to follow him even though he's like terrible. You know,
I know, right. I guess it's like
but he's like I'm the father you never had.
He already was such a villain, but then to like go that one step further, I was like, oh man, they really, and like I think it's great. Like I didn't want to root for him, you know, because he clearly is not that. He's not supposed to be that figure, you know. He really is just supposed to be like an oppressor, and so
I'm actually really surprised, and I can't tell if I like it or I don't like it. I'm leaning towards I like it, but like the ending was very sort of like anticlimactic, but like in a good way, where it's just like his power just peters out and everyone walks out on him, leaving him alone with no violence. And for a movie that
didn't feel, it felt rushed. The ending felt rushed.
I'm okay with it.
That's my least favorite part.
Yeah. But it's weird that like so much violence and then it's just like they walk away with no violence happening and then like they just leave him and he gets to live and stuff, which is fine. It's just like kind of not satisfying. Like I wanted him to get his comeuppance a little bit.
Right.
But it kind of works that he didn't.
Yeah, he's sitting in that like defunct mind, kind of like seeing him like. But that's the thing. It's like he has been abandoned by everything that like, you know, his country has abandoned him, and everybody, you know, there's no more. He has no more like, you know, support by anyone anymore, and so like that is like the closest thing you're gonna get to like him. You know, like he could have been killed, but it's almost kind of like this is worse. But it's not really. It's like it would have been. I kind of like, but I didn't want. I'm glad that Agu didn't kill him clearly, because that would have been a step too far, honestly. Like for all the violence that he's committed, it's like for him to just like point blank assassinate that guy. it like I don't know. It would have felt just, but it also would have.
Yeah, I agree.
It would have been like him. He finally broke, and so it would. I think the ending would have had to been a little different.
Yeah,
but
I agree because it's like that's kind of the point is that this guy ended up kind of having such a power over him, even though he like had a dad and everything, but his dad got fucking executed, unfortunately.
Right.
In front
and
of him.
the time kind of. I can't tell if like a month went by or if it's like 8 months or to 2 years. That was a part that kind of bothered me a little bit too, where I couldn't tell. And it I know that's not like super important, but like, you know, it just I think my only issue with this film, aside from like a few grievances we just spoke of, is the pacing was a little. It felt like this needed to be a little longer to like. You know, flesh some stuff out.
Yeah, well, that's how it always comes down to. We're always it either needs to be longer to expand on ideas, or needs to be shorter and drop any half thoughts,
right?
To be tighter, because I definitely think it could have been shorter, and I don't think it's for me. Yeah. I don't think it was like just the pacing, because I thought the pacing was pretty good, but it was more like the way that content was dished out to us. It's just like after an hour in, it's like I was like. I get it. Like, you know what I mean? It kept just kind of like being a little bit redundant. And I think that's my only problem with this movie, where it's just like, yes, I care about Agu and like his strengths, but it's just like for that whole second act, it's just like, how much fucked up shit can we do? And like, just like how much and it's like, but it would come right back from the edge where it's just like, okay, I get it. And then it would do something really powerful, like that scene where he sees that woman, like you think he's so desensitized, and then he sees that woman and thinks it's his mom.
That's
one of the best scenes of the movie, and you know, and then it's like, and then it's super brutal because then it's like it's not his mom, and then she's fucking gets raped by this other guy, and he kills her to like put her out of her misery or whatever, and he's just so desensitized to it, and so I was like, but like right before that happened, I was like starting to glaze. I'm like, they're like walking, like I was becoming just as desensitized as he was, which maybe is the point where it's just like by then, because he's literally just like. He's just going through that house. That one shot is great, by the way. He's going through the house, and he's like smashing he's like tipping over the furniture, just like kind of just casually, and then like shooting out the window at random people, and he just does it like he's bored. You know what I mean? And it's like I felt that way, and I don't know if that's like a good thing, because I was also by then being like, yeah, we get it. War's bad. Things are bad. Everything, like how horrific. Like he's already been fucking raped now at this point. He's addicted to drugs, or whatever. Like it's all brutal. We get it. And then it somehow gets even more brutal by like bringing back just that bit of humanity there, and he's like, my mom, I was looking for you, mother. And she's like, I don't know you. And it's like, oh, you can go lower. And so it's just like, I do like that. I thought that was really effective, but at the same time, getting me to feel bored and desensitized, it was like, I was kind of, for a while there's a big chunk where I'm just like, okay. And then it's like them, I didn't give a fuck about them going to the city and stuff. Like, it was just like, all right, yeah. Like, because at that point I'm like, oh, am I supposed to care about plot now? Like, I don't care about plot.
That's kind of, yeah, exactly.
Idris Elba trying to be like a warlord and stuff. Like, I'm like,
yeah, look, and I got a little confused because like he was upset, but I like, he got, because it almost seemed like, he got a promotion, but I didn't quite grasp what was happening with his promotion. So
out in the jungle, he's God. You know what I mean? Out in the fucking jungle with these boys, he is the ultimate. But here in the city, even if he gets a promotion, he's second to this guy. You know what I mean? Or third or fourth. Like he's always, and so he was pissed because he wants to be out there.
Well, and that's
being
I think that's
lording, being the like mini warlord that he is, which makes him an really interesting character. But they kind of like in the back half took away the focus from Agu's struggle and like being like, oh, his interest in character development, which is good, but an hour 40 in a 2 hour and 25 minute long movie or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I mean, whatever, you know, like it's like that's my only thing. I was just kind of exhausted by it at that point, you know what I mean? And I've seen other movies kind of do that. Like this actually kind of reminded me of the whole time of City of God. Is the one
oh my god, that's so funny. I was literally gonna bring up City of God because it's got like the opening energy is like exactly the same.
Yeah,
and so that's it's like with the Imagination TV.
Dude, I fucking love the Imagination TV stuff so much. It's so good.
That's so it's like it's so funny, so creative. And then it's a beautiful callback when he like sees real TV, you know, and he doesn't quite understand, or like you know, it's like he knows what TV is, but it's like this movie does
it has
a
an
beautiful job
entire
of, like, giving him
different
glimpses of like his human, like who he was, you know, before he was like effectively brainwashed, and like
it's a past life, you know what I mean? It's like he remembers was someone else. That was an entirely different kid who was dead now, because he at that monologue at the end, one of the most poignant things he says, well, like his internal monologue to us, right, in his narration, he says, she's talking to me like I'm a baby, but she's the baby and I'm the old man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where he's like, I'm the one that's just like, I'm quiet, don't want to talk about it. It's like he's so aged by what's happened to him in his years that she just doesn't get it at all and wants him to just relive it. And he's like, what good is that going to do? And that's what makes it so powerful when it comes back around. Because honestly, this movie, like, it looked great. Everything about it was really good, other than those like minor kind of things in the second act and near the end, I was saying. But like that ending made it worth it. Like, it really stuck the ending with that monologue, and then with him going in the ocean. It's like, that's the closure that I want and that I need, and I get. And I'm fucking stoked that I get that, because it's like, viewing it really made it worth it. I don't know, because it's like, I finished it in 2 parts. So it's like, I watched I watched like an hour and like an hour 15, hour 20, like to when they were in the city, and then the dude dies at the brothel or whatever. And then it was like super late, and I was like falling asleep or whatever. So I was like, all right, I'll finish this tomorrow. And then so it's like, but I came back and I was like, I do want to see how this ends. But by that point in the movie, I was just like, I think I got everything this movie has to say. But I'm glad that I didn't. You know what I mean? I went back and it like brought it back around in a way that really made me care. And so I don't know how I have to feel about this movie, because I did really like it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'll never watch it again.
Right.
I won't.
Right. And that yeah,
just cause, it's also just because it's suffering, a lot of suffering. It's just brutal.
Yeah, exactly. It was a movie that I was thinking, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like City of God. It's like,
sorry, just look at my dog over there.
It's like that. Oh,
she's dead.
Yeah, dude, that's great. That's how Pele sleeps too. Just belly up, baby. If they were fishes, they'd be struggling.
Yeah.
But I think this film, like, it kind of gives you everything in the first watch, and like I know like a second watch is I think watching a movie twice is kind of necessary, no matter what it is, you know, unless it's like,
I think it's almost always worth it. But we'll talk about that when we talk about Prey in a minute.
I know. Right. Really, that's what. Yeah, I think that's where it is. Like, this movie was exhausting, and like, it's kind of like, this is one of those, like, you know, it's an important film. Like, I feel like, yes, I want people to see this, and I highly recommend it. But it's like, it's intense, and it'll like wear you out. But as much as I complain about pacing, I watched this in one sitting, and I actually didn't feel a slog at all. I was very intrigued and very like, and I was just, and you know what? I was excited about the production quality. I really thought I thought that, and it's not even production. Like, it's shot fine, because it's like digital was really figured out in 2015 by now. And so like, it looks beautiful, and they do some like, you know, kind of like, you know, Afrofusion with like him taking the drugs for the first time, and it like changes, the saturation changes. And
I loved that.
Know, and like
there's like the magenta or whatever.
And it goes magenta, great. And then it shows tribalism, and it's just like, it's pretty cool, and like it gets, and I'm kind of bummed it only did that once, you know. I really was like hoping that like there would be more connection to him and his family, you know, throughout that, because they don't really do that very often.
Because the opening credits were also like, I had like the beatboxing with like it's like, I don't know, something about it had like such a flavor too with that. Yeah, that it's like,
right. I was hoping for that, but one thing I loved is like the groups of people. There were so many people throughout this entire film. Like, when they were shooting, there was always like 20 people in the shot. Like, it's like, you know, unless it's like clearly like the characters together alone, but like I was like, oh wow, this is like really cool. It's something you don't really like, you know, music and like, you know, cinematography and that kind of like set pieces and stuff are important, but like the actual fact that like the main cast was like a large group.
There's a lot.
And they were together.
Yeah.
They were together for like an hour and a half of this movie, like in every shot.
Yeah.
They were always there. And it was like, that's really cool. That's a cool production. And it turns out most of them are former child soldiers.
Oh,
And
no
actually,
shit.
Tripod actually fought in
Wow.
like an African Civil War. Like
That's cool.
so,
That's
pretty
cool
crazy.
that they
yeah,
like
they
are
they
out of
took
it
them
and-
through Ghana.
Yeah.
Like they took all they took the team, the filmmakers through Ghana and stuff.
Yeah.
And like
It's like you say, it's that 2015. They had digital figured out by then. So, but it was smart because they had such an effective use. Like this movie looked beautiful, and they had such an effective use of like natural light, because that's always the biggest giveaway when it comes to digital. Is like it doesn't always look as good in low light. And so it's like this movie was mostly in the daylight, which also made like all the war crimes all the more horrific. And the only time you can really tell it's digital is in some of the nighttime scenes, unless it's like when they're burning down the camp, which is like looks amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. I was also excited because it's like I can't say his name at all, and I'm not even gonna try. But the director is the director that directed every episode of the first season of True Detective, and so I remember that's another thing I remember about when this came out. Because True Detective had just come out before that. And so I'm like, he hasn't really done... I gotta look it up. Because I'm like, the last thing he did, I saw his name on a project, and I was so disappointed. And I think it was like the last James Bond's movie or something.
He did. It was No Time to Die.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I like this guy. Because he did True Detective. Because he directed every episode of the first season, which obviously is a masterpiece. And
first season is, yeah.
And then this, I was like, oh, cool. And this was really good. And so I'm like...
God, he got Joe Bell in 2020 was the last thing, and he just produced it. He's just. Oh wait, I'm being a dumb bum.
Oh, dude, yeah, he didn't do that. He did The Maniac.
Oh, okay.
The one with Jonah Hill, Emma Stone. That was kind of fun. Anyway,
yeah, he's definitely.
I want him to. I mean, I heard that No Time to Die is pretty good, but that's one day we will watch James Bond. Like, there's enough of them. We might just have to do a James Bond month. And just go through go through the decades, because it's like I tried to put James Bond on 60s month, but it's just like we haven't seen like hardly any of them. Like I've seen like one. I've seen Dr. No and like GoldenEye, I think maybe.
Like, I really can't. There's one where he's in Vegas and he drives on two wheels through an alleyway. I don't know what one that is.
We need to, because it's like I feel like people think I'm a boner when they're like. Somebody brought up Spectre to me at East Hollywood when I was there, and I was like, yeah, I never saw that. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I know. I only wanted to see it because Roger Deakins and Sam Mendes too, I guess. But
and it's got what's his name in it? The
Christoph
Waltz,
really right?
Yeah,
he's
yeah. So
like, we'll watch some of them. Yeah, we'll get.
I think I have seen. What are the ones from the 90s, like GoldenEye or whatever?
Yeah, that's what I said. The Pierce Bronson ones, right? It's like
that's right.
Because there's like No Time to Die or whatever. Is that the other one? Or no, that's the new one. There's like Forever Tomorrow and Thereafter. Anyway,
yeah, whatever.
Anyway, so what else you got to say about this movie? It's good. It's brutal.
I think it's great.
I want. I hope. I want to look up and see what that kid's doing. I don't know his name. But the kid who played Agu, because I hope he continued to act or do something, because it's like, I think he did a really good job. He
definitely did more acting, because his picture, he's a little bit older in his his IMDb photo. So, but he's in a Spider-Man. Oh, he's only in 4 movies. So he did a Spider-Man, Out of the Village, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and then Tasmanian Devil in 2020. So
yeah, I want to see more of that Idris Elba guy too. Which I'm looking at his.
Idris.
So sad.
What if he's good?
I know. I just remembered he was in that Dark Tower movie that everyone forgets about.
Yeah, I know. Well, and he was in Beast.
Oh yeah, we talked about that with his daughters or whatever.
His daughters, yeah. He didn't want his daughters to be in it, or he had them audition and he was like, no, they're not good enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wanted to see 3,000 Years of Longing. I forgot about that one. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Right. It's a great film.
It is really good, and my only problems, like I said, is it's not the pace. It's just like kind of the relentlessness of it. It's like, but it comes back around. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to say, it was shot for $6 million. So they did. What they did with their budget was fucking insane.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great. Yeah. And that's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah. Especially because it's like they go into the cities and everything. And the amount of people, but I guess it's like when you're paying former child soldiers, I don't know how much they had to pay them. Probably not that
they
much.
Wanted,
you get a ton of them.
They were child soldiers. They literally they were camping and doing some of the people had like trailers, quote unquote, and actually somewhat of a budget, somewhat of living quarters that don't seem as rustic, and it's but a lot of them were fine to sleep just anywhere out there. Once you're a former child soldier, you're
honestly though,
you're
right?
You're hardened.
So I can put gunpowder cocaine in your scalp.
I know. God, yeah.
Anyway, so check that movie out. It is worth a watch if you're in the mood for watching
definitely
horrific war crimes. Let me read a Reddit because I did read in Clones Are People 2's comment. He said, "Come and See." Is like a similar vibe, which I've been that's been on my to see list for so long, just so long.
Same. But I know
I was gonna watch it
about it, and
I know all about it to a point, and I was gonna watch it, but then I heard they were re-releasing it in the theaters 4 years ago, and then I don't know if anything ever came of that. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna wait till they re-release it because they're doing a remastering
that would
or
be
something.
Sick, dude. Okay, yes, I would. I want to see that really bad. So.
Sorry, I pulled up the wrong thing, silly Billy. Talking about movies. Oh no, that's Prey. All right, so Clones of People 2 says my second watch of this. I watched it for the first time earlier this year. Oh, sorry, watched them both back to back. That's what you need is many rewatches in the same year. Beast of No Nation. So he says, this is a phenomenal film and masterfully crafted. The acting from the leads is fantastic and directing is immense. The film is brutal and can be distressing to watch, but is surprisingly tender at times, especially through Agu and his reflections, showing us that humanity can survive through the most inhumane situations. The scene where Agu kills his first person is well directed and shows us his disassociation from the reality through the editing and fading out of the score. The scene where he thinks the woman is his mother is awful to watch, and when he shoots her while she's being raped is just shocking. I really like this as a film, despite its harsh themes. I recommend, if you can take it, watching Come and See in the next few days. The films are so alike. Oh, back to back, sounds brutal.
That's good. No, that's my watch party.
But when we watch, we talk, we're gonna do a hopeless month or something.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
Overall, on the second watch, I noticed the fast pace much more. The first watch was shocking, but the second watch really showed me how the pacing gives us no escape. 9 out of 10. That's a good way to put it. It just it doesn't let you, it doesn't ever give up on you. Just when you think, like I said, just when you think you're desensitized, then they can show you can go lower. What did he say? Oh yeah, dude, that first murder though. I kind of was not expecting it to be that violent when it just shows the machete wound.
Yes.
I'm like, God damn.
Right, and the blood. I was like, okay, good. This is I'm cool, because it kind of, not to say it seemed tame before that.
Yeah.
But I definitely was how brutal can this movie get, and what are they gonna do?
Well,
and then when that happened, I went, okay, this is there's no, now I'm as a viewer, I'm on the edge of my seat because I don't know what violence they're going to get into. I don't.
Right.
They've now set this precedent of having extreme violence.
Yeah.
So I'm wow. Okay. So every time something happened, I was expecting more, and I think that might be to a disadvantage on myself. But I love the relationship was built because him and that other Striker. They kill him together.
Yeah.
And so I'm now they're bros. They're really.
I know. I thought they were going to turn them against each other because Stryker was upset that Agu was replacing him as the favorite. Even but then they bonded with their trauma and all that. But
yeah, right. I think Stryker. I think they showed Stryker as being really broken because he already got raped. He's been raped before.
Yeah.
And so that they're kind of showing that was the major breaking point.
He doesn't even speak.
But, right. Yep.
Fucking no. Yeah. if you're gonna make a movie, that's why I was glad about like it did get so extreme. Because if you're gonna make a movie about like war and specifically like the horrific of war crimes and like the brutality of it, you know, when you're not trying to be all some heroic shit, it's like, yeah, you shouldn't shy away from it because it's not cool, but like from a filmmaking aspect, it kind of is, like the effects and stuff. But
of course, yeah, the effects and I like reality.
Yeah, exactly. In these kind of movies, having that graphic violence is probably the most effective. You know what I mean? Is like having that realistic graphic violence in these movies is like kind of the best use of graphic violence. You know what I mean? Anyway. Beast of No Nation. Let's talk about the next movie, Prey, with an E.
With a Prey, because you ain't going to catch me out here praying to nobody.
Yeah, just praying to the fucking Predator, man, for sure. I'd pray to that guy. This Predator is hot, man.
This Predator is dope, dude.
I love the
design.
Don't know.
I mean, it's funny. I'm like not a Predator fan at all, but like I love the design of Predator and I love the canon of Predator where he like lives. He's like a bounty hunter and he just fights. Like it's like it's silly, but it's like what is that, like chivalrous or whatever? What's the word where you're like it's very like he's noble and he won't attack somebody if they're like wounded. Like he's I only want to fight like the strongest, and like there's something that's I'm like, oh, that's so dignified that he'll only fight somebody if it's like they're worthy opponents. But then that clearly gets bent, and the rules are like, what are the rules? Where like, who's he kill? Sometimes he just massacres for the plot. He'll just massacre like a village, and you're like, why'd you do that? But anyways, it's
for the challenge of it, baby.
Well, right, but anyways. Predators, he's a complicated man.
It's a different Predator. It's just the same race or whatever.
Yeah, right. And that's a part 2. I was like, how do they procreate? That was my one. Were there Predator women?
They fuck, bud.
Yeah.
That's actually a terrifying thought, is just getting fucked by the Predator. Because they don't make love. I guarantee humans? It. Because like I hope not. All right, let's get on track.
In Alien, they bang humans. Like that's their
that's
thing.
True.
Like they are kind of a strain of human.
Yeah, it's because Ridley Scott ruined xenomorphs by making them part of humans. Which
I know. Yeah.
Let's not go down that road.
No. Yeah. Let's stick. Okay. Prey.
Go listen to our go listen to our Predator episode.
Yeah, really though. Yeah, because we were fans. We enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's cool.
And so
I liked it better this time around.
Yeah,
right. I still think Prey is maybe better, but 100%. Not as like a better movie, but not nearly as original or influential. Because the first one is like really original, especially for the time, and obviously that's why it made such a big impact. So yeah, give me a quick synopsis, Jordan. You got 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I mean, 10 seconds is like Naru, a skilled warrior of the Comanche Nation, fights to protect her tribe against one of the first highly evolved predator to land on Earth. That's your basic, which is pretty. It's pretty common. But the main thing is like Naru has her brother who
he's the war chief. I forget his name.
Abe, yeah. He becomes the war chief because he performs like an act of hunting. That's a big part of it. It's got a Comanche word, and that was one thing that's great about this movie is they incorporate a lot of like native tongue, and then they did a whole other thing that we'll talk about.
The dub,
the dub, yeah, which is that's so cool.
It's great.
But so Naru and Tabe, they're the main characters, and she wants to prove herself. She's kind of like she's not looked at as like a strong hunter, and so she wants to perform one like basically getting a large predator and killing it and bringing it back to the tribe. That's where she gets praise, and she gets more ability to hunt. Well, when she's out with her trusty companion, her little puppy dog, which is like the cutest fucking dog ever.
Best.
She's out with the dog. She kind of gets in some scrapes with the dog, and then they hunt like a cougar that takes takes another kid from the tribe, and they go to get the cougar, and then Tabe does it, becomes the war chief. But then they're like, oh, there's another predator out there. Like there's another.
No, yeah, nobody believes her.
That's kind of right, and she knows it. But then like the tribe kind of like they're like, oh, if there's something out there, they go to like to protect because they're like, oh, if there's something that's going to hurt the tribe or whatever. So there's another party that goes out, and then she goes out on her own, and she finds the predator, and then she's like, oh, there's like a mishap, and there's like another group of kids that come out to help, and then they kind of get massacred, and then she gets knocked on her head a couple times, and one time she gets knocked on her head, she ends up going to like a French fur trader compound thing, whatever, like their little.
She gets stuck in a bear trap.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's brutal.
One
too.
of their bear traps, and so they come and find her in
right. They come. Oh, that's right. And I thought Predator would have killed all of them right then at that second, but anyways, she gets knocked unconscious, and the plot moves on, and so she's with the French, and then Predator shows up and kills them, and they're dead, and then like Tabe gets killed as well at that when he's coming to save her, and she ends up like tricking Predator and trapping him in like this mud and killing him with his like own helmet, his own like weapon device. And so that's pretty much it.
It's pretty much it. She comes back and she's the
badass.
She's got fucking green predator blood on her, which is dope as fuck.
Right. Yeah, she paints. She does like the war paint and looks pretty badass. And the tribe's happy.
Her arc is good. That's the thing. It's like her arc is good. Like she's very flawed early on. And it's like, obviously she wants to be a hunter, but people don't take her seriously because she's like a woman and she's like not as good to start. And I like that she constantly makes flaws and ends up becoming kind of the ultimate badass that can take on the predator. Like she's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, what I mean?
Right.
But I like that because there's that vulnerability, right? There's that vulnerability where it's like she does have to get saved by her. Like she definitely would have died. But then her brother sacrifices himself to like save her and distract him and all this stuff. So it's like, it's cool to watch it to like, she's going to win because it's like, she's the main character, but it's cool to watch like, like to actually feel like the stakes, like it's, she's formidable, but she's not like flawless and all this. And it's like, it feels good. Like, I don't know. It's good. And obviously I
think her arc is deserved, but it also like,
it's fine. I mean,
This movie kept going from like, I'm like, oh man, this like is going to be really strong and I really like it. And then some Predator stuff would happen. And it just felt like they fumbled that a little bit to me. It was weird how they did I think they did a good job at blending two kind of styles of film where it didn't feel like an action. Like when she's out, it felt like a character's journey. And then it became a survival action, And They did a pretty good job at that, but to me, doing the knockouts that bothered me so much. To like make the plot, there were like hours between her getting knocked out and waking up. That like I'm like you just like are we supposed to just infer what happened between this time? Like, it was kind of silly. And anyways,
No, I agree with you. The first because I watched this right when it came out, and I had pretty low expectations. But I watched it and I was really pleasantly surprised, mainly because it's like, it's a cool premise and it's executed pretty good. It does have some fumbles in the screenplay, I think. And there's definitely moments where it's like, oh, I need this person to be dumb now because I need the plot to move.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's definitely a few amount of that, but it's like, first time I watched it, I was like, oh, this was really pleasantly surprising. I want to see more stuff like this. It was nice and violent.
100%, dude. I would love to see Predator in other.
Yes, Predator for sure, but it's just like there's not enough movies. I feel like most movies that try it like fumble it, but like Cowboys and Aliens or something, where it's like a sci-fi premise, but in like an old timey low tech setting, is what's cool because it's like seeing Predator bust out all his cool little sci-fi tricks in this like the 1700s. When he like sends down his little drones to like chop those guys, like his own version of the bear trap that like cuts those dudes' legs off and stuff.
Right.
Is cool. Like, it's fun to see. Like, I don't know. It's like,
and
it's goddamn entertaining and I like it.
Yeah. Like, I think I was like his weapon, its functionality was awesome. And I love that. Like, I love how Predator in the canon he will compare himself. Like he'll try to fight. He fights like fair, but with advantage. And
Yeah.
so like he has those like 3 arrows that are like heat seeking essentially, you know, like they go wherever his laser
Laser's
is.
pointing in.
And so it's cool because it's not the plasma cannon that I was expecting the plasma cannon to come out.
Right.
You know, and so but then it was arrows and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's fun.
He's
that
kind of got the
he's matching their like, you know, like their vibe. But that's, you know, and that's something where I'm like, it kind of felt weird. Like I wish there was a little bit more. I'm like, we know it's Predator already. Like the second this, you know, the movie starts, it's like we already know. So it's like that doesn't need to be like hidden. It would have been kind of cool to see Predator surveying more and like observing them more, you know, like getting into that. Like I don't need like Predator's backstory. I don't need him to like be on the ship. Like
you don't want to learn about him
anything.
and his wife and like his little kids.
Yeah,
his Predator planet.
Exactly. I don't need to know any of that. But it just would have been. It's like we got like what 2 scenes where he I guess when he skins the snake and then
the wolf kills the wolf
kills the wolf. Right.
Sprays it with that cool stuff that like just melts all the skin off. That's fun.
That takes the skin off. Right. Yeah. That's cool and that's fun to know about
right.
Predator. But it just kind of would have been nice to see him watch her a little bit more, like, you know, being cloaked and having her be like a little paranoid. You know,
like him hunting, like, right? Because it's like
right.
I know they're trying to show like her character and her relationship with like her brother and everything, and how she's seen within the tribe, and that's all fine. But it's like watching it this time, I was like, oh, it gets right to it because she sees the fucking spaceship, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Right in the opening title card, it says it's Prey. It's the spaceship in the clouds,
right?
And then
it's fun that that's like her sign. How she's like, oh, this is
the Thunderbird and everything.
I love it. Yeah,
you know. But like I for some reason I remember it like getting right to it, and so I was like, oh yeah, nice, this gets right to it. But then it's like, okay, just kidding. Here's 20 minutes of exposition, before we get into it, which is fine because that's the thing. I definitely didn't like it as much this time around. I definitely noticed more of the stupidity of like where the Predator is super alpha, but then he like just stops. He just like stands around and forgets what he's doing sometimes to give the other characters an opportunity to fucking throw her Spider-Man axe at him, which is cool because it's like, you know, it makes for good action scenes, but it's just like, don't think about it.
I know, and that's where, and I think that's where I'm like, oh, it became like lowest common denominator action film.
Yeah.
When you were like doing something cool for a minute, like you know, and which is fine. It's like not. I didn't, you know.
We
I didn't
said
need
this.
It to be Dances with Wolves, like
right. Even though, we're super pretentious, so we'd like that. But
I would have loved that. I mean, that's the part I loved the most about this.
Well, I like because same thing goes for. We said this in the original Predator movie. The original Predator movie, it's great because I mean, you know what it is, especially nowadays. But it starts off as an action movie that the most badass characters, turns out they're in a horror movie, kind of. Like, especially those moments when they realize they're being stalked and hunted, and then it turns into an action movie again. But that's kind of, I want more of that because that's kind of when this movie's operating its best. Like, don't get me wrong, action scenes are pretty dope. Like, they're fun to watch. They're good action. But there's like, all the moments, like you say, when he's like stalking her, when he's watching her, and she's like, there's something else out here, and it's the footprints, and then there's like a buttload of blood and like the skinned snake. Like those are the horror elements.
Like, the detective work essentially, and her, when she's tracking, I'm like, I love this. I like want more of this, and I kind of wish the cat and mouse was less just brute force and more of that. Like
as much as the like. The Frenchmen coming up and like those scenes were all really cool, and where it turns out that whole camp of French trappers are also like hunting the Predator. They're like, there's something out here. We're trappers. We're going to hunt it. Like, even though that's cool, it does feel like, okay, we need to add something else to the plot to up the stake and up the body count. Right. And it's like, but yeah, I want the cat and mouse and like the being stalked by a fucking wild animal is terrifying. Like, you see those videos of like some hiker being fucking stalked by a mountain lion.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Dude,
and
terrifying.
It's so scary. And it's like having those moments where she's like trying to like figure it out. It's scary and tense in a way that like a lot of the movie doesn't have as much, which is fine because it's not that kind of movie, but it's just like, that's what I would like to see more of. Like if they should do another Predator movie. I don't know what they would do exactly. but like what the setting would be, the gimmick, I guess, because that's what made this movie kind of work is the gimmick.
Right. And that is the gimmick though. It's like the first Predator happens and it's in a jungle, and then the second Predator is in the city, and so it's kind of just like, where can we put Predator? Where that's
the thing,
and that's kind of it.
Like, the last Predator movie was like not good, but it's like when all the humans go to the Predator planet, which is just the woods.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Essentially, yeah.
But I mean that was fun because it's like, yeah, where else do you put it? We'll read his comment in a minute, but Cleanser People 2 was saying on Reddit to like have the Predator go back and like fight dinosaurs or something. I'm like, that's what I want to see.
And that's what's kind of cool though, is like this movie set that canon up by putting Predator against animals. Like more like I don't remember him fighting animals in the first one.
That was
right?
I don't think so at all.
So it's like
but like him fighting the bear was sick, and him fighting the wolf because the wolf kind of gets him a little bit.
Well, that's what I love. No, I love how the wolf. I'm actually really bummed that the wolf didn't have like 3 or 4 wolves with him.
I know. I was
really
like,
gave him a
literally
run for his
a
money.
lone wolf. Like, what are we trying to say here?
Right, exactly. But it is fun to like. That's the thing I like to see. Is Predator is like he's flawed as much as he has like his advancements, and his advantage. It's like he is just like fighting and kind of figuring out. Every opponent that he approaches, he has to suss out. He doesn't know how to fight them until he's had a fight with them. Essentially, he's figured out their tactics, and then he pretty much has the advantage on them. But that's what's fun. That's why we like to see our characters survive. But the one thing about this movie, this is how this film is for me, and it's contained in one scene where it's amazingly done, but kind of just it's fruitless, and there's no payoff. Is when she gets stuck in the mud and she has the axe. That scene is so intense, but there's no other
it's
like
just foreshadowing. It's just just like this exists, so it doesn't come out of nowhere later. But it feels like that. It feels like,
and it does.
It feels not
like
the quicksand.
But they're doing a good job. Like
it is. It's
tense.
Like it's like
I
slowly.
felt like that. Yeah, it's coming up, and like you're like, oh, she only has like one more throw, and it's like I get that, but like I feel like there almost needed to be another. Like if Predator was like watching her, but still got caught somehow in the trap, or I don't know. That's just what I'm saying is like it's masterfully done. It was really great, and I liked it. But then it kind of like just was for nothing, and like it pay off later, which was okay. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. The actual action part of this whole movie.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like it's a solid enough screenplay, and it's obviously really well made from like the production values and stuff. I think is really good, and like the CG shows, but I think it's pretty forgivable most of the time.
I know, right? And the CG doesn't bother me because Predator looks good throughout like the whole thing
for sure, and like that's a costume most of it, right? And so.
Right.
But like what you're saying and like what I'm saying too is I think it comes down to like the frame of what a film is so visible on this movie where it's like when you see the stuff that happens, it's like, oh, she's stuck in the bog, and it's really well directed, and like the scene is really intense, but you're like the purpose of the scene just really shows as like what it is, and like now it's like now's the part of the movie where we need to up the stakes. Now's the part of the movie where I need the hero to succeed, so I'm gonna just make the Predator just like trip on our fucking root or something. You know what I mean? Like that's why it's like you can really just see the fucking framework of like here's how we need to get to point A to point B to point C, and that's like kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. But I think that's the biggest flaw of all these things is it's just like it serves the plot instead of the character. You know what I mean? It's like that's always kind of what I'll say about screenplays a lot of the time is where it's just like you set up, you establish something, and then you kind of don't really follow it because you need the plot to go one way, right? And that's kind of the telltale sign of like bad writing. I mean, we talked about it with like Prometheus, where it's just like if your foundation shit, then your movie's going to be shit, even if it looks beautiful and is directed beautiful and is acted amazing.
And you have like, and it's like in Prometheus, there's like some really good scenes, but it's just, it doesn't tie me.
That's how it is with this movie. Like, I think this movie is 10 times better than Prometheus, but unfortunately, for Prometheus and my heart. But it's like, that's the thing. It's like, you can see all the stuff in this, but it's not bad. I don't know. It's just
No, it isn't. I mean, that's the thing. It didn't really, as you know, I guess it's kind of like that. We're like, I went into this. The only thing I knew about this movie
could be way worse, but it could be way better.
You gave it exactly. That's exactly it. But you gave it a positive review, and so I was like, oh, I'm excited. And then I read about like the main thing is it's like it is they did. So they filmed this in Comanche.
Yeah, did their research.
Like they did a full right. Like that's like and like all the actors are like indigenous and like it's one of those movies where I'm like, this is the bare minimum if you're making a film about a certain tribe. This is the bare minimum. This is the amount of research you should do.
It's sad because it is like
compensate.
It feels like above and beyond in these days.
Yeah,
but it is the bare minimum. It should be.
This should just be a standard if you're making a movie about another culture. You should like, implement. I'm not saying like it should only be the culture making it, like but I think that everyone should be compensated heavily and to the same standard, and so like and have a heavy influence and like so anyways, it's like they did that, and that's something I'm really
cool.
happy about, and that gives me literally just like it gives me like a more positive review of coming into this film, and it's fun to like I watched like just the standard Hulu dub. I didn't go and watch it in Comanche, and so I don't know how different that is, from this viewing experience, like how I watched it. But what I watched, I liked it.
It's cool that it's an option because it does feel like a really good compromise where it's just like we got to make this movie in English, and they do the thing where it's like you should do in a lot of movies where it's like there's sounds like English, but they're really talking it, but it's like translated for our benefit, right? But they're like, we're gonna go out of their way to make a Comanche dub for it, which is like, it's cool. Like they definitely didn't have to do that.
That should be done more often. And it's cool because it's all the main characters.
It's all them
actors,
actually doing
Comanche.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome.
Like they're doing the dub, and it's like I'm like cool. That's great, and it's fun that like the thing that gave me like that's because in Hunt for Red October they do it where they like they go into English, and I like I like that. That's fine, but I can't remember. There's something where it's like other people are speaking. And they're not speaking their native tongue. And I'm like, that's what I really liked is like the Frenchmen, they didn't have subtitles. They didn't speak English, they just like, they spoke in French. I mean, he spoke in English.
He spoke in English for us, but he was speaking Comanche in the fiction,
Comanche,
which is cool, right? Like it's effectively, it's a good way around it. I heard a thing, not for film, but for, heard a thing from fucking Brandon Sanderson, right? The writer, the fantasy writer. He said something about like, you're writing a fantasy book or whatever in some different universe, and you say like you call something an Ottoman, like the furniture, but then you get caught up in like but then was there an Ottoman Empire in this, and like why is it called that? And he said that like Tolkien had been like, oh no, it's like a translation, and so like looking at these things through the lens of like it's a translation sort of in the fiction, if done correctly, is really effective, which is what this movie does, I think, where it just like it does that. And another movie recently I was thinking that does it is, I know you haven't watched it, but Avatar 2. It starts where they're all speaking Na'vi, and then he's like, and then after a while it started sounding just the same as English to me, and then they like switched to English.
Okay.
But it's like, it's effective, it is
effective,
a smart tool that explains it away in a way that works, and it's like, in this movie, it's respectful to the actual culture too.
Yeah, cool. And they tried to shoot that scene. They tried to have their own. Oh, we're gonna, like we're speaking our native tongue, and now it's like, but this is how we're gonna talk, so that like so it can be English, and they couldn't figure out a good like seamless way to do that, so. They just because in Hunt for Red October, it's a great transition.
Yeah.
Though I have my grievance about it, but it's still like it's a cool.
It's one of the better parts about that movie.
Yeah, really though. But yeah. So this movie, like, I liked it, and I like highly recommend it, and it's kind of fun. I think I read Clones of People too, and we're just kind of we're dissecting your comment now, but I think you mentioned that this is your first introduction to the Predator world, and that gets me into the question of like, does are some films like watching a movie like, because like with X, I think, or with the X trilogy, I think watching Pearl first and then X and then Maxine it totally fits. Like I think you could do that, and it would it would be great. Like I don't think it would, because usually I'm like I'm a purist if we're getting into like sequels and trilogies and stuff. It's like you should watch how it was released. But that's definitely where this I'm like it's actually kind of fun. I'm like to watch this, and then I don't even know I guess necessarily where it would fall. I can't. Predator probably would come next, right after, because I don't think there's anything in between.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
80s
I'm not sure about like the rest of the fiction. Like that's what I was saying earlier off camera with you. It's like because then you got all the Alien versus Predator stuff, and then we talked about
and
Predator,
the comics series.
Right, we talked about Predator 2 a little bit, and I'm like, I don't think I've seen it, but I feel like I've seen it, but I think I'm remembering the video game, which I have played back in the day, and I think that the fucking creators say it's canon to the universe. Like, who knows?
I know.
When it comes to fucking these kind of universes like that, like, it's just so kind of whack, and so it's like, but it's just a cool premise that they can do over anything, but I'm like, where do they go from here? Because this movie was well received, I remember, and everyone's like, oh, like,
this is the highest grossing streamed show on Hulu.
Oh yeah, well, that makes sense.
In there, I guess when I say highest grossing, that's what's tricky too. Is this movie was I like to get into Money Minute a little bit. This movie was $65 million to shoot, and which that seems to me, I'm like that seems fine, but I kind of feel like I'm almost like
it's a little high.
How it's
high.
like how was it that expensive? But
I would have guessed like 35, 45.
And I've 50 is why I would have comfortably been like 50's fine. That 50 to me would have been high, but anyways.
Because even the
65.
CG and the direct to video style release or whatever does feel like a little double A. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing about this movie. It's not quite. It's no big blockbuster, but like I think it could. It's like rides right on the line of it could have been possibly.
And I wonder. I didn't look into it, and that'll be another bonus episode I'll talk about it because I really want to know who did the CG for this because it's really bad, and so I'm curious. Like,
I don't think it's that bad budget. Though. Like, it's very noticeable.
It's noticeable, which I guess I'm thinking it's noticeable, and it's funny because he has when he brings the bobcat or whatever they brings that like mountain lion into the camp. It's a puppet, and so I'm like, you could have shot like at least 3 or 4 shots could have been the puppet. I don't know. It was like it was just 100% CG, and even like I swear to God, like the tree was CG. It was just everything was CG. So it's like it did.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah,
and that's what motion blur. It was the motion. It was the motion. Because the actual effects were fine. Like I didn't really have any real big problems with the CG, even though like you said, it's really noticeable all the time.
We've kind of gotten we've become we've softened on our CG.
Dude,
like, we notice
we've
it now,
softened
we give it
much.
We give it passes, but back to like till I don't know 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were like
10. If we had a podcast 10, 15 years ago, like I would say that we talk positively about, at least to some extent, all the movies, but like we generally we always find something to like about even the shittiest movies generally, but like we like at least 75% of the movies that we watch, because we just like movies.
I'd say more.
But
I'd say more. Yeah,
85 even. But 10, 15 years ago, it'd be like 45 maybe. Like like we were haters, man. Like,
we were haters, and that's the whole reason. Is like the reason we've softened now is because I would have like this movie, no matter what, I would have been like CG sucked, movie sucked. Like it would have been that very simple, and very like just very like like off the cuff, like just and. Staunch like opinion about a movie has to like fit this parameter where I'm like, no, CG's fine. They and even Predator had a lot of like the costume was enhanced with CG, and that's kind of where I'm like, they're just using CG as a tool, and so like that's what that's the compromise. That's what I've always wanted. Well, put a guy in a suit and then make it look cleaner, make it look, add some things with CG.
That's an age-old tradition. Even the original Predator had like just the old school CG, right? Like some of the first,
100%,
And so it's no David Fincher where it's like seamlessly integrated, but like,
I know. Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, what does David Fincher do? Does like he have a dude that he pays exclusively to do his CG? Because it looks. How come it looks better than anything I've ever seen?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Yeah,
it's fucking. Yeah. But yeah, no. Back in the day, like I definitely would have saw this and been like, okay, this is a 2-star script, so it's a 2-star movie. But I'm like, yeah, the script is like serviceable, but. The directing is really good. Like the reason why those scenes are so tense, it's shot really well. I mean, the CG is below average, but I mean, it serves like the cinematography most of the time. And like
I think both films we've watched,
good.
Yeah, right. Oh no, yeah. That was a thing where I'm like, I don't know if this was PG-13, which it probably was R, right?
Definitely,
it had to have been R. Yeah, it had to have been R because it was violent enough.
There was way too many fucking like chopped off limbs, like fucking dismemberments to be PG-13.
Well, right, but when he gets dismembered, it's kind of like, I don't know. It definitely is. It's like my favorite. I was gonna say, okay.
I was shocked this time around because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, this movie's
right.
It was like maybe PG-13 or a soft R, but this time around, I was like, oh, that's actually shockingly violent. What I just witnessed.
Yeah,
you're just desensitized because you just watched fucking Beast of No Nation right before this, where they just macheted a guy to death in the Jeremy Selner style.
Yeah, I know. Right. I watch Cannibal Holocaust just on repeat. So I don't even know. I'm like this. I
only like it if it's PG. Only like if it's real.
I know. If they really killed a bobcat. But I think what saved this film for me is the actors. Having young adult children actors in both films we watched, Beast of No Nations and this, it's like I'm like, God damn, these kids are killing it. They're doing such a good job. And like that's where this movie is like, I really liked it's like even though that's what it is. The script is so cringy, but I actually like their performance. Well, what the words they're saying are stupid, but like,
well, that's the thing.
I like their performance.
Someone got the write-off, and they like got a really cool premise, and they got like a franchise to bring back from the dead, and they wrote it, and they're like, okay, this is good enough. This is solid enough. I mean, and they rolled with it. But that's the thing. It's like everyone did kind of the best with what they had, except for I guess I don't know where that $65 million didn't go towards. Like I guess better CG, but. It's like the production and like the post-production were all like the actors gave it their all. I think the movie looked really fucking good. It's like all the like high saturation in the forest, but then like the plains and the fucking foggy, burned out trees of that whole sequence was like, even though the sequence on paper is pretty silly. That's kind of this whole movie. It's like on paper this might seem silly, but like. The sequence itself was tense and cool as fuck just because of how it was directed, how everyone acted in it. It was like everyone was fucking making me believe it. The music was like, not stoned out, but it was completely in service of the tension.
Service, yeah, right. Everything was serviceable except the acting was a little more superb. Like
sure. And I think the cinematography was pretty top shelf. Like I think it looked pretty good most of the time.
Well, dude, tell me. Okay, the scene that really like highlighted just good direction for me on top of like the bog scene, but is when they're running from Predator through like the plains, and it's like he comes down and he gets one of the kids and just rips him apart. when he's like, that's where I'm like, oh, this is kind of slightly to its horror roots, where like he violently rips that kid apart, and then he's like bloody on his torso and his hands, and that's all you see running.
Yeah, and it's just streaking in the like the aerial shot through the like high
his
grass.
Stride, yeah, dude, his stride's like crazy, cool. And like I do like how she notices, like she's like, oh fuck, this guy's fast, like she's like never, and that's what's kind of fun too, is like she's like, oh, I've never seen a. There's never been a creature like this. I have no idea what this is.
Well, that's why I like her as a character too, is because it's like every mistake she does make, she learns from. And you know what I mean? And so it's just like every time she fucks up and almost dies, whether it be in the bog or whatever, but it's just like she sees the lasers, sees what it does, and immediately is like relates to it. It's like, nope, he's got you. You know what I mean? Like he's on us. Like you're not like, let's run. And yeah, the directing in this movie is really good. I hope I hope the filmmakers and everyone continue on. And I also am like, this movie, I feel like they're like it was more popular than they maybe expected, and that's why they released a Hulu. And then, but now they're like, fuck, we don't have another cool because it's like, again, someone had the cool idea, and they're like, holy shit, that's a good idea. You should write that, and I'll pay you, and we'll make a movie. And they're like, great, let's do that. 20th Century Fox and Hulu or whatever the fuck. But now it's like, what's the next? Like they have that they brought this franchise back from 2010 Predators, which was kind of butt.
Right.
It was pretty butt. It had its moments, but it was pretty butt. I mean, Adrian Brody is cool and all that, but it's like now where do you go with it? It's like we've been to the Predator planet. It's like I don't know. It's like putting in another time period. Like you could go full sci-fi and do like dystopian future or some shit, but we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I don't know.
I mean, I know I can't. I can only think of like super gimmicky things to put Predator in, but no, that's tricky. It's like,
they should just what they should do, instead of trying to think of a super gimmicky premise, they should find a kind of gimmicky premise, like go cowboys or something, or fucking Indochina or some shit, like the fucking old school Japanese empire or something, but do it in a different medium, like stop motion or something.
Oh well, duh. Yeah, I mean, that would be great. I'm almost thinking it'd be kind of cool to do because they've done like Predator Planet, but it's always like it would be interesting to see. I mean, they've done Predator vs. Aliens.
You want to see the Predator sitcom where he goes home to his wife and kids, and was like,
how
was the hunt, honey? And he's like, oh, here you go, and he like has a human skin. Like
it would be interesting. I know, really though. She's batting it with one of those like things for an old carpet.
Yeah, it's like they have the rug, and they're like, oh, your husband's a hunter, huh? I do taxes. It's like the tax accountant Predator.
Well, look, that's what he would be. He'd be like, I'm a mechanic. Like I'm a mechanic on the ship, honey. And he's got like greasy knuckles, and he's just drinking back like Predator beer. And he's just like, he's like, what do you want from me, woman? He's like, woman, I went and killed a beast yesterday. I know. And she's like, I've got the laziest husband. I've got the laziest predator. They're all called predators. That's all their names.
I got the laziest predator.
I've got the laziest predator on Predator Planet.
Like I fought a bear. Like
he's like, honey, I just killed a 90-pound woman. What do you want from me?
I know. Anyway, so I'm gonna read the Reddit now. We talked about it. Let's read the actual comment. How about that? So Culture People 2 says, my second watch of this. A lot of seconds. We got to get him on a first watch this next movie. Same for me. The first time I saw this, it was my introduction to Predator, but I have watched Predator 1 and 2 over the last year, so happy to revisit. I think the idea of this is fantastic. Dropping Predator into a different time period is a great idea, and I wish other franchises took from this playbook. Alien versus Samurai or Final Destination with Vikings. Holy shit. I didn't even read that this first time around. Final Destination with Vikings sounds hilarious.
That's awesome too. And like whatever god they have is like what shows up, like their god of death and stuff.
I know.
Fucking dope.
Yeah, because then there's no, that's the thing too. There's no like superstition.
Phillips.
Oh, I know.
Oh, rest in peace, dude.
He goes on to say, the second watch of this, although an entertaining watch, it did not live up to my first viewing, and I thought it was good action film, but had its faults. It feels a bit flat and formulaic, and while the cinematography was great, the CGI was lacking at times. That is 100% my sentiment as well. It's like second time around. Maybe I'm nitpicking, but the way the Predator gets killed bugged me. Does it not know how its laser-guided weapon worked? How does it not realize that it's pointed at its own head? And for a species that is clearly very advanced, the Predator seems a bit dim. But I guess this guy is the Predator Planet's version of a trophy hunter. It's true. He's a dentist, He's just a dentist. Yeah. And so overall, I think it's a solid addition to the franchise, and it's also a good standalone film. 7 out of 10 for me. I hope they follow this blueprint and make more like this. I want to see Predator take on a T-Rex or something, right? Right. Thank you for that comment, because that would be great. That's the idea. Write that up. They'll buy it.
But that's the thing. But there needs to be a little bit something else to it. It's like he'd have to fight like a T-Rex and then King Kong. Like it would have to be like he would be fighting T-Rex and then didn't know like he's on Skull Planet or whatever, Skull Island. And,
right.
Like
that's that. Well, that would be interesting because this is like put it in a time where it's just like not human centric. Like I want to see more movies that like can focus more on just visual storytelling, where it's like, I'm empathizing with like. Or like a caveman, like this chimp.
Right, caveman. Or put Predator in a time loop movie.
Like a Groundhog Day.
Yeah, he has to keep like killing the same people.
He just can't get out of the time loop. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's enough.
It was fun.
I think that's
I
enough.
had a good time.
I said earlier on, I said I'm not going to make a habit out of this 2-4, but again, all bets are off until the holiday's over. We probably will be back next week, but maybe not. I mean, Christmas is coming up.
I think because you're done with school. You're done with school, and I'm on my normal schedule.
Yeah,
so
Christmas break. Yeah, we should be back for just one movie next week, but if not, I mean, hang on with us until the new year, and then we'll be back on track, hopefully, 100%. So,
I mean, if you want us to keep making them every week, just come to Patreon and support us there. You can go to Patreon / Knowledge, and you get, you come give us a little money, and then we don't have to work ever again. That's where we go.
Off your like $3. I'll
take it.
If you go and tell us you want to listen to the Halloween episode that we never recorded,
we will. We're going to record that, dude. I don't
next Halloween.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll record it.
I got to get out of here. I got like 10 heaters in this room.
Okay.
So, thank you for listening, everybody, and go to the Reddit. I haven't put. I'm gonna put on
YouTube.
Go to the YouTubes, all that. I'm gonna put on a poll for more streaming movies. For the next movie, I haven't decided which ones yet. But if you have one that you want to suggest, please come tell us which movie you would like to see on the poll, and we will throw it on there for sure. So,
Oh yeah.
all right, bye now.
Bye. How was I supposed to?